In the unforgiving world of high-altitude mountaineering, some stories become legends, etched into the ice and rock of the world's highest peaks. The story of Francys Arsentiev is one such tale, a profoundly tragic chapter in the history of Mount Everest. After her death, she became known to the world as Everest's Sleeping Beauty, a name born from the haunting image of her final resting place, visible for years to climbers on the main northern route. Her 1998 ascent is not just a record of a climb, but a deeply moving and complex narrative about the heights of human ambition, the depths of the human spirit, and the fatal flaws that can emerge in the pursuit of an extraordinary dream. It's a story that forces us to confront the ultimate price of obsession. Long before she faced the Himalayas, Francys Yarbrough was born in Honolulu, Hawaii, on January 18, 1958. Her early life gave little indication of the extreme path she would one day choose. She pursued a conventional route to success, earning a master's degree in business and building a respectable career as an accountant in the picturesque mountain town of Telluride, Colorado. But beneath the surface of her professional life, an adventurous spirit was stirring. The majestic peaks surrounding her in Colorado were not just a backdrop, they were a calling. She began with hiking, then progressed to more challenging climbs, discovering a passion that would come to define her entire existence. Francys's life took a pivotal turn when she met Sergei Arsentiev, a formidable Russian mountaineer, known in climbing circles as the Snow Leopard for his incredible feat of scaling all 5 of Russia's 7,000-meter peaks. Sergei was a force of nature. He embodied the elite level of alpinism to which Francys aspired. Their connection was immediate and powerful, forged in the crucible of shared risk and mutual respect on the slopes of numerous Russian summits they climbed together. This shared passion for the mountains soon blossomed into a deep love, and they were married in 1992, forming one of the climbing world's most ambitious partnerships. Together, Francys and Sergei pushed their limits. Her climbing resume grew to include formidable expeditions, from the west buttress of Denali to the icy slopes of Europe's Mount Elbrus. It was on Elbrus that she made history, becoming the first American woman to successfully ski down its formidable face. But these achievements were merely stepping stones. A singular, audacious goal began to form in her mind: to climb Mount Everest. More than that, she aimed to do it without the aid of supplemental oxygen. If successful, she would be the first American woman to achieve this monumental feat, a true testament to her strength and endurance. This ambition would become the ultimate test of her life. Mount Everest, known to the Nepalese as Sagarmatha and the Tibetans as Chomolungma, stands as the ultimate terrestrial challenge. Its summit, the highest point on Earth, has captivated adventurers for over a century. But this allure is matched by its immense danger. The mountain is among the most hazardous in the world to ascend, a place where the line between triumph and tragedy is perilously thin. Statistically, it claims a life in approximately 6.5 out of every 100 successful summits. It's a sobering number that underscores the unforgiving nature of this environment, even for those taking every possible precaution. For the vast majority of climbers, ascending into this thin atmosphere is only possible with the aid of bottled oxygen. Yet, for a select few, the purest form of the challenge is to attempt the climb without it. Climbing Mount Everest without supplemental oxygen is a tremendously difficult and hazardous endeavor, representing the absolute pinnacle of high-altitude mountaineering. It sets the bar higher, transforming the climb from a test of endurance into a profound physiological battle against the void. To date, more than 10,000 individuals have successfully summited Mount Everest. But of that number, only about 200 have done so without breathing from a tank. This isn't just a climb, it's entry into one of the most exclusive fraternities on Earth. The primary battleground for this endeavor is the infamous Death Zone, the region above 8,000 meters, or 26,247 feet. Here, the rules of human survival are rewritten. The air contains only about 1/3 of the oxygen available at sea level. At this altitude, the human body can no longer acclimatize. It is, quite simply, dying. Every minute spent in this environment pushes the body past its breaking point due to severe hypoxia, or oxygen deprivation. Without the buffer of supplemental oxygen, the risk of life-threatening high-altitude ailments skyrockets. Acute mountain sickness, AMS, a precursor to more severe conditions, becomes almost a certainty. This can rapidly progress to high-altitude pulmonary edema, or HAPE, where fluid floods the lungs, creating a terrifying sensation of drowning. Equally deadly is high-altitude cerebral edema, HACE, which involves the swelling of the brain. Both conditions can incapacitate and kill a climber in a matter of hours. The profound oxygen deprivation also forces climbers to move at a glacial pace, dramatically increasing their exposure time to the elements and raising the risk of frostbite, hypothermia, and complete exhaustion. To even consider an attempt on Everest without supplemental oxygen requires a rare combination of physiological gifts and unwavering discipline. An individual must possess phenomenal physical fitness, a genetically superior capacity to acclimatize to thin air, and an almost unbreakable mental toughness. The technical aspects of the climb, already demanding, are magnified. Every movement is more laborious, every decision more critical. There is no margin for error when your body and mind are functioning on the edge of collapse. It is a challenge reserved for those who have mastered not only the mountain, but themselves. In the spring of 1998, Sergei and Francys Arsentiev arrived at Everest's north side, their sights set on a monumental goal. Francys aimed to become the first American woman to summit without supplemental oxygen, a feat that pushes the human body to its absolute limit. Sergei, a seasoned mountaineer, would support her in this shared ambition. Their plan was to ascend via the challenging North Col route. They began their acclimatization, and by mid-May, they were ready for their summit push. On May 17th, they left their high camp, but their first attempt was thwarted. They were forced to turn back. A day later, on May 18th, they tried again, only to be defeated once more. The brutal conditions and equipment issues, including a failing headlamp, made progress impossible. Each retreat from the death zone was a crushing blow, draining precious energy and time. Yet their resolve was unbroken. After a brief, inadequate rest, they launched a third, desperate attempt on the evening of May 20th. They climbed through the night and the following day, pushing their bodies far beyond exhaustion. Finally, late in the afternoon on May 22nd, they stood together on the summit of Mount Everest. It was a moment of triumph, but it came at a perilous cost. They had summited dangerously late in the day, with the sun already beginning to set, leaving them to face a descent in darkness and extreme fatigue. As darkness enveloped the mountain, the descent turned into a desperate struggle for survival. Exhausted and disoriented, Francys and Sergei became separated. Sergei managed to make his way to Camp 6, believing Francys was not far behind him. But she never arrived. The next morning he realized she was missing and, without hesitation, grabbed oxygen and medicine and headed back into the death zone to find her. Meanwhile, Francys had collapsed. She was discovered by an Uzbek climbing team making their own descent. They found her clipped to a guide rope, unable to move, and severely frostbitten, but alive. They spent nearly an hour trying to help, attempting to administer oxygen and coax her to her feet. But Francys was too weak to stand, and the climbers themselves were becoming dangerously exhausted and hypoxic. In the brutal calculus of high-altitude mountaineering, they knew that staying longer would likely cost them their own lives. With no other options, they were forced to make the agonizing decision to leave her and continue their descent to safety.
She last spoke to climbers Ian Woodall and Kathy O'Dowd. "Don't leave me," she told O'Dowd. Francie's complexion, according to O'Dowd, was milky white and flawless. Her face resembled that of a porcelain doll as a result of the terrible frostbite. "Why are you doing this to me?" she questioned. They were likewise compelled to leave her.
Woodall and O'Dowd were also faced with the same grim reality as the Uzbek team. They were at their own physical limits, and a rescue at that altitude was impossible. Leaving her was a decision that would haunt them for years. At the age of 40, Francys passed away alone on the mountain on May 24, 1998, in the same location where she was last seen. For nearly a decade, her body remained on the main climbing path, a stark and tragic landmark for those who passed. She was given the name Sleeping Beauty because she was found lying on her side, partially covered in snow, as if in a peaceful, final rest. While the Uzbek team was descending, they passed Sergei on his way back up. It was the last time anyone saw him alive. Fueled by a desperate hope to save his wife, he climbed back into the unforgiving heights from which he had just escaped. He never returned to camp. His own fate remained a mystery for a full year. In 1999, another expedition discovered Sergei's body. He had fallen to his death not far from where Francys lay, his ice axe and rope still with him. It's believed he fell while making the treacherous traverse back to his wife. In his final act, Sergei Arsentiev chose to return for his partner, a testament to his love and courage in the face of impossible odds. The mountain that had granted them their shared dream had ultimately claimed them both. Is Sleeping Beauty still on Everest? Yes, Francys's body was left out in the open for about 10 years, close to the mountain's dangerous northeast ridge. She was brought out of sight and away. Out of compassion and respect, Ian Woodall, who had met Francys on Everest shortly before she died, led the expedition from the climbing route in 2007. Out of deference for Francys and her family, the precise site of her burial remains a secret to this day. After covering the body with an American flag, Woodall and his crew moved her to a location where she would no longer be a waypoint for mountaineers. This gave her a likeness of a burial on the peak that had taken her life. By doing this, Woodall and his colleagues brought the sad story of Everest's Sleeping Beauty to a dignified conclusion. May she rest in peace.